All right. All right. You want it? You got it. Sam in the spot. We're gonna let it brew up real quick. You know, because I just got an email and I don't know if it's a troll or what. But motherfucker sent me an email asking me about my views in regards to swirling because I don't speak about it. I avoid it. I mentally, physically, spiritually avoid it. And I've learned to do so over the years. So, since you want to know my views, man, I'll give it to you. And if anyone doesn't know what swirling is, the definition is basically interracial dating, interracial marriage. Believe the phrase was coined by black women. It's also known, I guess, as jungle fever, reversed jungle fever. And, some people may call it jumping the fence. So, um, I tend to see a lot of black women who do date outside of their race in middle class communities. You don't necessarily see it in poor communities, and I am going to touch on a lot of subjects in regards to this because I know a lot of white guys. In fact, I hope he's listening to this video because I know one of my Caucasian buddies. He's a bit older than I am, but I sent him a link to my YouTube channel, and me and him, we went out and we always read pickup artist books, and we always talked about dating black women and dating white women, and he eventually dated a African American woman. He's happily married now for a couple of years, and before that, like he actually told me like he was done dating white women. He had actually a hierarchy when it came down to dating. Like the lowest of the low was the black ghetto ratchet women, and right above that was just your blondes and your brunettes, Spanish women, and at the very top he had the intelligent, independent, go-getter black women. You know, I tend to find that like as far as him, it was very rare because it got to the point where he was really done fucking around with white women, and I had to understand why. Like he actually broke a lot of this shit down to me because the way a lot of white women were entering their initial stages of feminism, and just the fact that the Western civilization is losing its tradition, and I didn't realize that it was actually going in that direction when it came down to a lot of white women. And then not only that, he said that white women tend to sag once they get older, and black women tend to carry more youth as they get older. They tend to grace older and better. But a lot of other white guys, a lot of other Caucasian guys that I know, it tends to be more of a fetish, and it's easy for me to kind of like break down the two and confirm which is what. So that is one of the reasons why I don't mess with a lot of Caucasian women. And shout out to my homeboy, and I know he has a YouTube channel as well. And I forget it; it's at the tip of my tongue. So I gotta get that YouTube channel so I can go back to your videos and start responding to some shit as well. So I know you're gonna respond to this one, but the woman who he met, and she's a beautiful black lady as well. She has her shit together. She makes a lot of money, and they have business plans. She was done fucking around with a lot of black men. Like she was taught by her father even not to deal with these niggas. It's almost like the situation with Serena Williams. Like, it's okay to date them, but when it comes to marriage, you better find you a guy with stability. It doesn't even matter if these white guys make less money than them; they will still date them, and it has to do a lot with the way they're structured in Western society, especially. The way their hierarchy is set, where when you think of white men, you think of stability, you think of more discipline, but these women tend to not get the fact that, you're not gonna take and run shit when you go over there, you know, and that's what you see with the vast majority of black women who get on YouTube and they brag about going out and dating other races of men, like, you know, you're tired of fucking around with black men ain't shit, you know, we don't want any independent, strong, educated black men. We're going to go over there and date white men. And I mean, just like Charles said, Charles Willie P indicated that when you date outside of the race, those guys on the other end, I mean, they have a strong patriarchal establishment set up. You're not going to go over there and start running some shit. You're not going to go over there and just start speaking your mind and catching an attitude. And this. Now, I've seen this. I've seen this with a lot of black women who actually get married. Like, when they get married to these white guys, they cut that shit out. Some of them actually go inside of the relationship already calm. But when it comes down to the black community, when it comes down to the brothers, you know, a lot of these guys, you know, they have a high level of infidelity. They have a high level of masculinity, which again, it is based on estrogen and not testosterone. So, I just don't like the fact that a lot of these black women, they taunt it in your face. You know, it's like, yeah, my husband is white. My boyfriend is white. Yeah, I don't date black men. You know, and I just tend to avoid them. Like, you know, I mean, I've actually gone through situations where, you know, black women would try to slip it in a sentence like, yeah, you know, my boyfriend is white. And I'm like, okay, you know, just don't really pay no mind. And, you know, it's like they try to repeat it again to get a reaction. Did you hear me? My boyfriend is white. I'm like, okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you expect me to do? Are you going to, you know, request for me to just argue and dispute and, you know, go and fight him? Yeah, I'm going to fight you with my resources, with my stability. You know, I'm like, look, go ahead, date outside the race if you want to. You know, those type of women, and I know at least 4 or 5 of them, those relationships don't really last too long. Especially like the more educated these women are and the more black men that they fucked with in their previous history. I have a cousin that, you know, that actually went through the same thing. Like, these women end up getting divorced. I have a cousin, she graduated, Madam Cum Laude from high school, never made a fucking C in her life. She only made 1 B out of her whole entire life. You know, went to school. She went to Tulane University, went to Loyola University. And when we were coming up, I mean, we used to fight over, you know, we used to both be straight A students. And then one day I got a B. She made fun of me and shit. This was like in elementary school. And then when she got her B, when she was in like 5th grade, she cried her ass off. You know, she was very smart, educated. Well, she met a white guy from Finland. I mean, the motherfucker is like a prince. You know, his mother has... his mother and father, actually, they are rich. They have land out there in Finland. So he came out here and decided to go to school. And, you know, they got together and got married. The marriage didn't last a year and a half long because, again, she comes from this high level of matriarchy because even though she was raised by her mother and father, her mother ran that house. Her mother ran the relationship with the daddy was just basically walking around with his tail tucked between his legs. My uncle... you know, and this is my grandmother's younger brother. Like, he didn't really say too much. You know, he was a humble guy, which is nothing wrong with being humble. But when it comes down to a lot of decisions, it's like, man, you know, you can't sit there and play that weak-ass Cliff Huxtable role all the time. Sometimes you got to lay down your opinion. It's all right to be considerate with your wife or your significant other. There's nothing wrong with that. But all the damn time to the point where, you know, the children actually ask you for some shit they want to get away with, and they fuck around and, you know, they say, well, daddy told me I can go, you know what I'm saying? Well, you need to come and ask me first, you know, that type of shit. Like, you know, it doesn't pay to be the nice guy in the relationship, and that's what he was. So it was definitely a matriarchy relationship, and, you know, when she got into this relationship with this Finland guy, you know, she tried to control that shit. And I know because, like, even her best friend, me and her best friend used to work together, and that's the way she acts. Like, she only dated white men. And the white man that she ended up fucking with was the guy that I just spoke about a few seconds ago. You know, and he was like, yeah, you know, I smashed. And, you know, she she just didn't know what she wanted to do. She wanted to, be gay one day. Like, she would dress like a woman at work, high heels and all of that shit. But on the street, like, we go out, she would wear, manly clothes, fitted caps and tennis shoes and shit. Like, she used to fuck around with women. She was done dealing with black men. She was done dealing with black men because of all of her previous history of choosing the wrong type of guy. But when it comes down to, dating outside the race, they want the guy of the same mindset, the same structure, or the same goals as the educated brothers. And I'm like, damn, that shit is fucked up. Like, that is an insult. So to avoid a lot of the shit that these women try to pump in, the educated brothers' face, I mean, it's best to just go ahead and ignore them. Let them talk and let them, think that they're getting over and shit. So a lot of these guys, I'm talking about a vast majority. They are looking at this as lust. Now it's to the point where the high standards in regards to dating, and this is on both sides, black men and white men, it's biracial women. I did research on this shit. White women have been on the decline as well. And you can tell when you go out and look at them in the street. You have the high-end white women, they still tend to cling to the patriarchy that's out there for them. But when you look at the lower class and the middle class of white women, they're not getting picked either. Me and my homeboy, we had a long conversation about this. We went out and chilled at this nice restaurant inside of the mall. And, we had like a 3-4 hour conversation. Sometimes we would be in the office after work and we would sit down at a conference table and discuss a lot of this shit, man. Shout out to my homeboy Dave, man, if you listening. Man, so like biracial women are in. And white men, they choose the best of the best when it comes down to black women as far as like their physical looks. You know what I'm saying? But that's the problem with me with interracial dating, because they can get the best of the best when it comes down to fucking black women, but when it comes down to black men getting the best of white women or any other race of women, it's always like the second hand, third hand type shit. So I'm like, if I'm gonna date outside of my race, you better believe I want the best of that shit too. There's values involved, there's levels to this shit, you know what I'm saying? There's values with this brother here. So that's why I don't date outside the race. And there have been other races of men who have indicated this shit. They've made these statements. And I've heard these statements basically saying the same thing. Like, we can get the best of your women, but you'll never be able to get the best of our women. Shit is true as fuck. You can see it. Anyone, when you go out and you go to the club or you're going out to a restaurant, look at who these white men are dating if they're dating interracial. It's a bad bitch. Right? So, bruh, black men, you can say whatever you want. I'm telling you. If you're going to date outside your race, you better make sure you got the best of the best. Like me, as far as like the reverse swirling, the jungle fever type of situation, I've studied that and I've learned that. In the Asian culture, it's not really like that. It's based on the way these women are raised, and it has a lot to do with tradition. It has to do a lot with the values. And I've actually seen a lot of black guys who have dated Asian women from Korea and from Hong Kong and Filipinos. And a lot of these women are beautiful. Very, very cold. But when you look at the guys, they're basically, the guys on the black end of the community, the black men who are, stand up, honest, well-to-do guys. And, from a personal experience, I have a lot of Asian friends, from all over the world. And I can definitely vouch with that, for that comment. But, here in America, it's a little different. You might see a few of them. Like, I have a close friend of mine who he's been married to, and I made a video about this too as well. But he is married to an Asian woman. She's from Korea as well. And they've been married for about maybe 25 years. He's much older than I am. And his wife still today, she keeps her sexy up. They have their little son. You can see the black in him. You can see the Asian in him. And, the father's still there. He owns his own business. And that's why, because, he's a stand-up black man and he has his stability. So, yes, this Asian woman, she has no problem getting with his program. You know what I'm saying? He's educated. He knows his shit. He has 3 businesses up. Yes, of course. He will be able to choose. And the reason why he didn't choose black women was because he was done, dealing with, even at his day and age. Like, he grew up, in the 60s, late 60s, 70s, and 80s. So, when he was going to school in the late 70s, it was all about being cool and having style. You jive sucker, you ain't hip, you don't know what's going on. That's what he got from a lot of black women. This is right before the crack era. So for him to just say, you know what, I still want to have a family, I am just going to leave and just mate with, I got a call, it's just going to mate with, other races of women. He did it, and he was successful at it. But, when we start talking about the economy, we start talking about how the world works in society, he tends to lean more on the multiculturalism now, because this particular guy, he owns a reptile shop, and a lot of white guys and Hispanic guys and, Somali guys, everybody loves him, everybody respects him, and, he's not really fighting for the black community anymore. Like, he has left that. He's no longer, not that he doesn't care, it's just the fact that, his family comes first, and his family is actually intact with another group of people. So, it's another reason why I don't date outside the race, because I love black people so much that some of the dialogue, some of the information that I do want to share, they won't respect me for it if I'm walking around with Kim, if I'm walking around with an Asian woman on my hand. I won't get any respect for that. Wow, man. So, I don't want to make these videos too long, because, I can sure get deep into this topic. But, I said the same shit, man, about the whole Serena Williams thing when she got proposed to by this guy who makes like $400 million less than what she makes. Actually, I'm not even giving an even figure. Actually, it's a little more like 489 million or some shit like that, less than what she makes. She had no problem dating this guy because, basically she felt like black men just could not compete, But will she be able to run over this white guy who runs Riddick? Fuck no. Hell no. She's going to put him in check, and he's going to turn around and put her in check. And if they end up divorcing, that's going to be a bad situation for Serena Williams, Maybe there's a prenup involved with that, but it's a fetish. You can just tell, just looking at this guy, it is a fucking fetish. And, nobody has any problem with it. Just don't go out and flaunt this shit. Just don't go out and be like, hey, look at me and my white husband. We don't care. You know what I'm saying? And I don't advocate that shit like how black women do whenever a black guy fucks around and, he marries outside of his race once he, joins the NBA or joins the NFL. I don't do that. But, shit, none of us as black men, we don't do it. You know what I'm saying? But just better believe that those white folks and, the other races, those Asian folks, they have their shit together. And then some of these motherfuckers will not marry you. I've even seen this shit with Somalians. Somalians will damn sure find them a black chick to fuck with. You know what I'm saying? And run their Somalian train on them. But will they ever court these women and, put them in their camp within their community? Fuck no. Hell no. Those fathers in those relationships, even with their sons, they're going to look at them like, Hey, you couldn't find you a Somalian woman to take and marry? It's the same thing with even black men. Black men, we don't look at it as a good look whenever our daughters want to marry outside the race. I mean, come on, be for real. If you was raising your daughter, for all of her adolescent years, and then she goes out and she decides that she wants to marry a white guy, it's almost like, hold up, wasn't I there for you? I mean, didn't I set an example for you? You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is just true shit, man. I mean, white men, you cannot blame white men for feeling that way whenever their white daughters come home, and they have a black man on their own, and the black man actually is usually like, I mean, all black men, I would believe, feel this way. Even the thugs, they would feel this way, like, yeah, man, I'm fucking your daughter. They thinking that in their head, but at the same time, they're thinking like, well, I understand that I come from an impoverished community, or I can understand that my group of people are looked upon as the lowest of the low when it comes down to dating. But I have your white daughter. So, this is traditional shit, man. Traditional shit. I mean, just like how, the black man wants to keep his genes in the family and, keep the information as far as their DNA passed down and everything just coincides with each other. White man wants that too. He wants that pure white, blue-eyed blood passed down from generation to generation to generation. They don't want that shit broken. You know what I'm saying? Especially if he's raised his daughter. A lot of times, like the ones who do date outside the race now, I mean, if they are from a strong traditional family, yeah, they might fuck a lot of these black guys, but they're not trying to marry them and shit like that. They just want to have fun. Only the ones who get married are the ones whose father is what just basically wasn't there, or they come from low-end communities. You know what I'm saying? But like a lot of these black women, they just want to go out and find them the richest of white men. But I'm sorry to tell you, the only ones that get those is like those black women who are bodybuilders and shit like that. A few of these vixens that I know, and they'll fuck around and have a white guy who, even with them, sometimes it's a fetish. Like, wow, this chick is beautiful. I want to fuck her. And then they do, and then they come back to me, and they're like, yeah, I had sex with her. I fucked. It's usually like the baddest bitches, these white dudes come back. And I mean, I've heard this shit. And I've heard other people say stories about this shit, like, going all the way back from high school. Like, I've heard stories where, these white guys would come back to a lot of these men and tell them, yeah, you remember the girl who, back in school, yeah, I fucked her, and she would only hang around white guys. Like, I've witnessed it as well. I've gone to a mixed school. I've been to schools that were predominantly white. Maybe 70% white. Maybe like 30% black. And then you still had like smaller the races or groups of people. I went there as well. I went to multiculturalism type schools. Definitely. And then you'd see it. I mean, the school I went to in New Orleans was like higher learning. If you ever seen the movie Higher Learning, it was like all the blacks used to chill in one section, all the Asians chilled in one section. You had the gothic, street people like the gutter punks and, the ones who would wear those long ass chains with the earrings in their ear, look like they have a big, humongous, giant hole in their ear and shit. Like somebody just shot them in the ear and they got an earring in that shit. They got nose rings. Hair long, looking like Jesus, always wearing black and wearing boots and shit. They would chill in the middle by the flagpoles. You had the Mexicans. Like, I've experienced it. And then you had the black women. They had the ghetto ratchet ones. Used to hang out with the black guys and the ghetto guys in the cafeteria and hogging up all the cafeteria tables. And then you had the smarter, educated brothers who, controlled their end of the cafeteria. And then you had guys like me who would just walk around the entire school and just observing this shit. Like, damn. They've had race wars in my school behind this, and you have the black women who were educated, who were hanging around with some of the white nerds. And, I've seen it. I mean, even when I was going to school, like, I had a few Asian female friends who I was really cool with, who I was real tight with. Did I fuck with them? No. Because even back then I understood how this shit works. You know, I understood like it's the same concept when you are dating a woman who has a father in the house. It's that same concept because you know this woman comes from an established patriarchy. You know that there's a father there. You know it's not controlled by a matriarchy. So you tend to go at a lot of these women with a little more respect. And then not only that, you know that a lot of these women want that respect. You know what I'm saying? So when you're coming up in high school, a lot of these guys, a lot of these street guys were turned down by the other races of women. You know what I'm saying? Now when you got, the Asian girl who wants to hang out with all of her black friends, I mean, that's a whole different story. A lot of those women had been ran through. I know one in particular who dated black men throughout high school, and then when she got into her early 20s, after dating and fucking around with black men since the age of 15, when she got into like her early 20s, like 23 years of age, she decided to go back to her own race of Asian people and have her kids with him. You know what I'm saying? And never look back. And the only thing that kept her going was the fact that she never had any kids by these previous black men. You know what I'm saying? So that's why a lot of black women are swirling out like that. You know what I'm saying? But the only problem is the pickings are even slim when it comes down to that. And you always see this shit with the darkest black women as well. Not to show colorism, not to really push that type of card. But, it's usually like the dark-skinned women who usually complain about this shit. Or, they want to sit up there and campaign for the shit. You don't really hear the light-skinned girl say anything about this shit because even with them, they understand that, they fit the beauty standards. Even if they don't completely see the whole grand scheme of things, they understand when they look at TV and they see these videos, they understand that they fit the beauty concept. All right? Man, I'm going and on about this shit, man. Let me stop right here, man. I'm just stop right here because I can actually do a part 2 about this shit. And then some of the topics that I'm thinking about as well, I can go off the deep end and, I would really like to break this shit down a little further and deeper. So I'm going to get off this video, man. I got a lot of shopping to do. I got a couple phone calls I got to do as well. And I'll holler at you guys on the next video. Sam Sim. Peace.